Hey, Mauro.
Kevin.
Look at you with your cracked wall. You know, I often wonder, you painters, whether you spend more time painting or fixing cracks, because you're fixing these things all the time.
All the time. I would say 50-50. My painting's only good if I fix the cracks.
Yeah.
Right? For instance, we can see here, a crack goes right from top to bottom.
Yeah.
All right?
So do you see them in typical places that repeat, or are they sort of just varied and all over?
There's 3 places that more likely you see cracks on a house. It doesn't matter if it's old or new. If you have a door right up above the door jamb, you'll see a crack start from the ceiling all the way down to the trim,
Gotcha.
the door trim. Or if you have a window, same situation, same way. Start up on the ceiling, ends up right there on the top of the window trim.
And the third place?
And the third place will be at the drywall plaster joint. When you see a straight line with the crack, that's the drywall joint.
So 2 drywall boards come together, it's at the same. And I mean, obviously, every house is moving, old or new, they're settling, and that's sort of what's causing the cracks.
Absolutely. The house settles all the times, and all the material behind the walls, behind the plaster, is constantly contract and expands. And that's what causes the crack, shows up right at the plaster walls.
So let's talk about your technique for patching a crack, and why do you have 2 here, just to...
All right, for a gap this big, we're gonna use a traditional joint compound.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna clean the cracks really well, make sure there's no debris in there, put a light coat on, filled in really good, and then we're gonna add a piece of mesh tape, right? And then on top of it, we're gonna run another pass of joint compound.
So a little extra support from the mesh tape. And when you say a crack this big, in your eyes, that's a pretty big crack.
It's more than I thought it would be.
Yeah, so you're gonna use something with reinforcement.
Yeah, that reinforced because that tape will also flex a little bit.
Yeah.
It might not happen too soon the crack to come back.
So would you do a different technique for a smaller crack?
Absolutely. For this one over here, I like to use the elasto patch because this can go up to a 1/4 inch gap.
Right.
And I like this the best because it contracts and expands like all the other materials behind the plaster walls. And the good thing about it, it's not sandable.
So this is more flexible.
There's more flex. It contracts and expands like everything else.
Gotcha. All right, well, let's see your stuff.
Let's do this. You can just right down like just one little coat. Just making sure that we press that with a little pressure, the filling go right in there. Just like that. First pass is done. Now we're gonna run a mesh tape right on top of that. Do a little pressure right there.
So you're kind of setting it in a real thin bed of the patch, even though the mesh tape's got a little adhesive on the back?
Yes, Kevin. We cut at the bottom. Now it's time for us a second patch. I just put a little bit on my putty knife. Start from the top again. Just make sure I don't want to cover the mesh tape the best I can. There we go. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour to dry.
Gotcha.
We'll come back, we lightly sand, we might add another coat on, just to make sure this is nice and smooth.
So let's see your technique with the flexible stuff. Completely different sort of look and consistency right there.
Yeah, you can see that it looks like a liquid caulking right there.
Yeah, looks like Fluffernutter.
Right? Just gonna add something to the putty knife again. And we're gonna work the same way. We're gonna make sure that goes right in there.
Pressing it right into the crack.
Got it filled in really well. Right from the bottom.
Now, did you say you don't like to sand this, or you can't sand this?
You can sand. This
is not meant to be sanded.
This is not meant to be sanded. It's going to dry. It's going to take about 2 hours to dry. We'll come back. We'll put the second pass on. We'll make sure that's nice and smooth.
So now we wait.
Now we wait.
Coffee?
Coffee's good. Why not?
All dry, Mauro? What do you think?
All right, couple patches are completely dry. Now we're gonna just run a light sanding, and then we're gonna clean up with that cloth, and then we'll be ready to paint.
Sand this, no need to sand this.
Forget about this one here.
Okay.
No, it's not sandable. This one, it is.
What are you using for grit?
We're gonna use a 220 grit paper. I'm gonna do it by hand because it's just a small spot. Just use like a circular movement, just like that. A little bit here at the bottom.
So that the edge is a little bit, a couple trowel marks in the middle, but not too much work.
Not a lot. I think that looks good. Tack cloth, let's clean up some of this dust off.
There you go.
It's looking pretty good.
May I?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's paint. Start with this brush. 2.5 angle cut. Do a little cut in here at the bottom. Also in there. A little there. Time to roll. Wanna give it a try?
No, you got it. You're good. Never get in the way of a good painter.
All right.
So let me come at it at an angle,
Check it
because that's
out.
where it really
Yeah.
reveals itself. You'd never know those cracks were back there. Perfectly smooth. Nice job.
Look good. I like it.
All right, Mauro, good information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. This Old House has got a video for just about every home improvement project, so be sure to check out the others. And if you like what you see, click on the subscribe button to make sure that you get our newest videos right in your feed.